Hello, everybody. Another episode of The Incredible Hoax. I am Mark Hoke, movie enthusiast, writer, composer, joined by
Chris Hoke, movie enthusiast, writer, director, editor.
Yeah. And this is a movie talk show. And when we're not like stunned into silence,
Okay, well, first off,
yes.
The camera looks crappy to everybody. Well, here's the deal. My camera is broke. It's at the shop, being fixed as we speak. I had been using the Red Seas camera, but we're doing this without the Red Sea camera because we really were on fire about our subject today.
Yes.
So we're using my little family, like you take on vacation handheld little Canon thing.
Yes.
That you just use when you're just messing around and shooting like your kid's birthday party or something. So that's the camera we're using today because we have something on our minds and we want to get it off our chest and we don't want to wait.
Yes.
So, having said that, what's on our minds?
That is the technical side of the show.
Yeah.
Now then, today we are going to spend the next 15 minutes talking about a new review for the new Disney film Tron Legacy.
Yes, Tron Legacy.
And let's just jump right into it. Thoughts?
Horrible. Horrible. You know, I read somewhere on the net where people said something like, you know it's a bad movie when the first everything everybody says is, well, visually it's good. Well, it is, it's like, yeah, visually it's good, but oh, Lord, is it
That's like saying, Avatar had great 3D, and then that's where your compliment ends,
Yeah. Here's the thing. Okay. Tron from the 80s, made in 82. I was 6 years old. You would have been, what, 10? 11, whatever.
Yeah, 10-ish.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
We loved Tron when it came out. I know the scene where he gets shot with a laser digitized just freaked me out in a good way. Just like the Raiders of the Lost Ark and Milton, everybody's faces and stuff.
Sure.
Freaked me out in a good way. I mean, I wasn't scared. It was just like, cool,
Yeah,
kind of like that.
When PG movies actually had edgy scenes.
Yes. Like when Indiana Jones movies, they'd shoot somebody and like pieces of meat would go flying, but it was still PG.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
I would love to go to the censor board today and do a quote from Heath Ledger's Joker. What happened? Did your balls drop off? I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Because PG is just so sanitized. But more on that another day. The film is so disappointing.
Yeah.
You have basically filmmakers who are like, well, let's hedge our bets. We don't want it to be a full-on sequel per se. We want people to, like, if you've ever seen the first one, to see this and also understand what's going on.
Yeah.
I could see that, but it is so. It's like there's a dozen ways I could have thought of to do this film better.
Okay. All right. First off, spoilers alert. Spoilers alert.
Here we go.
We cannot review this movie without doing spoilers. Okay. So you've been warned from this point forward. You've been warned. Spoilers alert.
And here we go.
All right. First off, first thing. You know you're in trouble, and the movie starts off bad. But
yes.
This is where I knew it was going to be a bad movie. In the scene when he is at the computer, talking to the computer, or whatever, and he goes to get shot and zapped into the computer.
Yes.
One, we don't know who or what zapped him in. I don't. It was not clear to me who zapped him into the computer. Wasn't to me. It was not to me.
Well, it was kind of lame because what it is he tried to like get into the program that his father was running, and he used a backdoor password to get in there, which he achieved that. But what happened was
I'm with you there.
When he opened the program, what they do is, this movie did this a lot, where they do something and then like 30 minutes later in the movie they reference it again to tell you what you just saw. And like 30 minutes later, Jeff Bridges' character shows up and he's talking to his son and he's telling him, oh, well, by the way, you want to know why I disappeared? It's because I was downstairs and I'd go down in my basement and I'd plug in my little program and I'd go into my virtual reality world. Yeah. So that's the program that he accessed. Okay. You're like, oh, okay.
See, that wasn't clear to me. In the first Tron, this goes back. This is
out of order. Yeah. Exactly.
Here's the thing, so we can do our show right.
Okay.
it was not made clear to me who, what, where shot him into the computer. And here's the really bad part. The most iconic to me, the most iconic image, the most iconic part of Tron is the laser shooting Jeff Bridges, cubing him up and digitizing him and putting him into the computer. That to me is like the same thing as going to the Batcave. It's the same thing as I'm drawing a blank. It's like James Bond going to Q. That's like, you have to have that in a Tron movie. When he is sucked to the computer, all it does is it shows a close-up of the laser's lens or eye or whatever,
right?
And just sort of makes this noise, and he's in the computer. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no laser shooting out digitizing. It just sort of just makes a noise, and he's in the computer.
Well, it's like the first Neo bullet time in the first Matrix. That's an iconic scene.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about. There was a special effects scene in the first Tron, and for you, that was incredibly
well, it's like the
iconic.
Transformers. The Transformers have to change from robot to car or vice versa.
Yeah.
They just, it's no more, there's no more thought given to it than me just, it's just like that. It's just like matter of course. It's just,
it's very, the film starts off dreary. And it stays dreary all the way through. There's like a very lethargic sense to the performances. The whole endeavor is just such a downer.
Oh God!
You're like, wait a second. This movie should have been fun. It should have been a good popcorn fun movie.
Yeah.
The first movie was a technological triumph in many ways. It was ahead of its time. Yes. Well, nowadays, because of CGI, you can do a movie like Tron. And that's no big deal anymore.
Yeah, people do fan videos of it on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, so that's really not that big a deal.
Yeah.
As far as the look and doing Tron nowadays, so you have to offer something that people can sink their teeth to. So how about a fun, interesting story that is appealing and a crowd pleaser? Yeah. No, what they do is they put forth this very ultra convoluted plot about bioengineering and how if we take this character out of the virtual world, that somehow that we can access this character's blood or whatever to cure cancer and all kinds of sort of things. And you're like, but to get that answer, they don't really say it as simply as I did. They beat you around the bush for 15 minutes halfway through the movie over eating green beans.
Well, here's my number one. The first criticism I had was the lack of respect for the iconic image of putting him into the Tron world.
Yes.
Of the Electron world.
Yeah.
That's my first complaint. Second complaint is, let me read to you. I have a dictionary here for a reason. Let me find it. Exposition. A detailed presentation of subject matter. All right? Statement of intent or meaning. And in terms of film language, what exposition means is, the best example of exposition is in a James Bond movie. James Bond's tied up to the thing, the bad guy is dead to rights, and that's when the bad guy tells him what his plan is. That's exposition. There's all kinds of examples that, of course, I'll draw a blank when I'm going to do it on camera.
Well, but, on Star Wars, you know, you have the Rebel Alliance going, okay, Luke, and the other TIE Fighter plane guys, okay, here's the plans, here's the Death Star, and this is what you got to do. Go down this trench, and you got to hit it into this thermal exhaust port. That's exposition. It tells you what your mission is.
Star Wars, also another scene in Star Wars, very briefly done. He goes to meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know my father? Yes, I know your father. The pilot of the Clone Wars. We're good for. He's a pupil of, he's a pupil of mine.
Right.
Vader killed him. That's exposition.
Yes.
It's very brief. Like in Star Wars, it's handled real briefly and it moves the story along.
Yes.
This is Tron's major flaw, in my opinion. He gets into the Tron world. He has a long, drawn-out scene of exposition with Clue, the film's villain. Then that turns into the next sequence after that. There's a fight sequence. He meets his dad. Huge, long scene of exposition with Dad. Followed by another long scene of exposition with Cora, or whatever is their name.
Right.
The chick, Olivia Wilde, in the movie.
Yeah.
Another scene, they go and meet this other guy named Zeus. Another long scene of exposition with Zeus. The whole second act is just these long scenes of exposition with all these characters.
Yeah.
And it's not done in a very interesting way.
No.
It's just literally you're like, come on, there's no action.
Mm-hmm.
Visually in those sequences, just people talking. You know, it's not like you have like these grand vistas and stuff. It's really just people in rooms talking. Mm-hmm. It just goes on and on and on. It is so drawn out and so long and so boring. It kills the movie. So the number one flaw of the movie is just these long, overdone scenes of exposition. Killer.
Yeah.
The writer and the director, and the editor maybe even, totally dropped the ball and didn't tighten that up. The exposition should have been done so much quicker. Mm-hmm. But they made the meat of the movies all exposition. Basically, here and what that means for people who aren't big into movies like we are, here's what that means. Instead of showing you the story and giving you a good movie, they just show you people talking about other movies, is basically what they've done. Instead of living the adventure and seeing the adventure happen like Star Wars, that's just people sitting around talking about past adventures. It's the equivalent of going over to your grandma's house and her telling her all the fun she had back in the day before you were born.
Right.
You know how boring that is. So just now you've paid $10 a ticket for a 3D movie to do it. Fatal, huge flaw.
Well, there's a good microcosm of the problem of this movie is there's a scene where the son, Sam Flynn, and he's been rescued really by this Corin, she's like a one-of-a-kind isotope or whatever the word they give. But,
I can't remember what it is.
Anyway, she's basically the last remaining kind of prototype of this bioengineer being, if you will, or entity, rather. So she's rescued him in this, race car, and they've got this long drive to Jeff Bridges is the original Flynn. They're heading to his hideout. Well, he's like, well, what's going on? It's a long drive. And they actually show you her going up and down this mountainside and hillside, and you see this, and you're like, oh, and you're yawning the whole time. And he asked her, what's going on? Oh, there'll be time for that. Yeah, like right now.
Yeah, it was a long car drive.
Yeah, like a long car drive. I mean, it wasn't like she put on, Aerosmith. Woo-hoo, car drive. It wasn't like they were looking at trees or, it was like this very rocky. There was nothing to see, and it's always like dark. There's no sunshine in this virtual reality world, so it wasn't like a joyride.
No.
And the whole time, and they take about 2 minutes to get to this hideout.
Takes a long time.
She could have told him, well, this is what's going on, and your dad's still alive, and blah 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 blah, and then his program clue turned on him, and it really just gave him the information right then and there.
Yeah.
So when he saw his dad, he'd be like, okay, and then when he meets his dad hugs him. Well, I'll be right back. He goes out on the balcony, and just all he does is look out in the balcony. And you're like, well, question, dumbass movie. Can I ask you a question? Yes. You've been here for 20 years. I'm sure you've had plenty of time to look out the balcony before.
Yeah.
But you've just seen your son after 20 years, and you want to pick this moment to go take a look off the balcony. It's stupid stuff like that this movie does that drives you crazy.
Well, it goes part with there's these long scenes of just of exposition and long scenes of just
stop and starts.
Yeah, it stops and starts. Second, I've got so much more criticism. My next point is one of the key points of any movie, especially involving good guys, bad guys in a traditional sense, like this movie. The bad guys' motives and plans and all that must be crystal clear. First Star Wars, Darth Vader wants to stop the rebellion and control the universe. He has the Death Star. It can blow up planets. It's simple.
Yes.
It's clear.
You
know from the first time you see Darth Vader, he's the bad guy.
You get it like that.
I have no idea. Clue, the bad guy in the movie is Clue. All right.
Yeah.
And Clue, his sole purpose is to make the system perfect and keep it perfect per his own programming.
Yes.
I think his plan is to go into the real world and conquer it. I think, and I don't know what he's going to do when he gets there. It's not really I don't know how he's going to do it or what he's going to do. I just know. I think that's what he wants to do. It's not really clear what he wants to do or how he wants to do it or anything else. It's just he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy just because he's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that.
Well, I see the parallels with, the Agent Smith was a great villain in the Matrix films, and you kind of understood what he was all about, which was he was kind of the anti Neo. I mean, anything light and good, that was Neo. And anything dark and evil and sinister, that was Agent Smith.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really get that with Clue, but I mean, that's what they're kind of trying to go for. Is, Agent Smith sees humanity in the Matrix films as like a virus. So you just have to kind of assume that Clue, it's kind of the same thing, that he would, if he goes into the real world, he will see humanity with all their imperfections as a virus and just start wiping us out.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, but wouldn't I just be able to take my gun and just shoot Clue and that'd be that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's going to be like able to dodge a bullet in the real world.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost think it's like this is really not that much of a threat, because if he gets there, he's got an army of 2,000 people. So
here's
call in the National Guard, kick his ass.
Here's an example of my point, and I know you're right here with me.
Yeah.
The movie Armageddon. I hate the movie. It's terrible. I think Armageddon the movie's terrible, but it does one thing real well visually. That for my point. Beginning scene, asteroid stuff comes in, tears crap up. Pretty simple. Asteroid's going to hit the Earth and blow it to pieces. It's that simple. And even there's a scene after we have the astronauts on the way. There's a scene where a piece of debris comes and it hits, I think, Paris and blows up Paris or something like that.
Yeah.
To remind you of
the threat.
With Clue, the villain, I have no idea what he really wants to do. I have no idea how he's going to do it or anything else. There's no real threat other than him just looking mean.
Right.
If they had a scene where he shows us in all this exposition he was doing, his plan of like some graphic of his armies in the real world marching on cities or something, I'd go, oh, he wants to take over the world like that. Or something, it would help. But no, there's no scenes. It's just, there's no scene. It's just totally visually, that's one of the problems, is the movie spends so much time talking about other crap and not showing you this story. Yeah.
Well, before we run out of time, I would like to say that, the dialogue is pretty terrible. There's actually a moment where Flynn says to his son, "Hey, you're messing up my Zen thing, man." And I'm like, really? Really? You're not dude from The Big Lebowski here. And he actually at one point, again, Jeff Bridges Flynn sees a plane go over him and he goes, "Radical." You're like, really?
Yeah.
Radical? I mean, it was like they were trying too hard to like, hey, this was an 80s movie. It's like, yeah. Maybe it should have just stayed there. It was so disappointing. And one final note is the whole thing with Clue. They show a flashback of him revolting against Flynn. Well, if you see the movie and you'll see what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You talk about a gutless coward. The real Flynn, he sees like the coup.
Yeah.
And he picks up his skirt and runs. Tron's staying in there like a good friend, trying to defend him, kicking butt. if Flynn had just lent a hand to help Tron, they would have overpowered Clue.
Yeah.
Because it was down to after all Clue's minions got wiped out by Tron, it was down. It was mano a mano, Clue versus Tron.
Yeah.
Well, had Flynn not been a girl,
or
excuse me, sorry ladies, had not been a coward.
He was a big sissy.
He was being a sissy, and he just ran off.
He was a big sissy.
That was crazy. We have a little cat technicality, but okay, we've done with the cat deal before.
I had to let my cat.
You know all about our cat issues.
Yeah,
they get really interested in what we're talking about. They wanted to see Tron Legacy too.
Yeah,
we're talking
off camera. My cat was starting to make a mess. I had to let him out of the room.
Yeah. but anyway, that scene is again another microcosm of what this movie did so poorly. You're like, well, Flynn, why don't you? You're supposed to be the hero. Have a spine. Stay in there and help your buddy. They would have beaten Clue right then and there.
Well, I mean,
it was terrible.
You know, it's one of those things where if it's handled properly, your hero can be coward, you know, and redeem
have a moment of weakness,
and then redeem themselves.
Yeah.
And I guess you can make the argument that's kind of what happens in this movie, but it's what to me, if all those other problems we talked about aren't there, you wouldn't even notice that. That's just one more drop in the bucket. And you're like, here's my last. I guess we'll wrap up my end of the show, keep things moving. Last point I'll make. There's an element in movies called a MacGuffin. All right. What a MacGuffin is it comes the term comes from a Hitchcock movie. I can't remember which one it was, but basically, for instance, like in the movie with Harrison Ford, Frantic, the MacGuffin was whatever the little device is that is in the little Statue of Liberty thing, which turned out to be a thermonuclear switch for warheads. It really doesn't really matter a whole lot to the plot.
Right.
It's just a device. It's a plot device, basically, for all the action sort of happen and center on. The story was more about him looking for his wife and the relationship he forms with the girl. That's what the story is really about. But the MacGuffin is a plot device to sort of hang that story on. Okay?
Right.
The plans in the Star Wars movie, inside of R2-D2, that's a MacGuffin. What is Rosebud? You can make the argument was the MacGuffin in Citizen Kane.
Sure.
The Ark in Raiders Lost Ark was the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
It's about, I mean, the movie is about finding the Ark, but the movie is really about the adventures of Indiana Jones and the girl and the adventure of trying to get it, not so much it itself.
Right.
So that's what the plot device is, just sort of something to hang the story from. Okay? That's what a MacGuffin is. The MacGuffin in Tron is these race of things called isotope, or I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, I've been jokingly calling them the isotopes, but I think
it's not the isotopes, but it's something.
But it's like isopes or something like that.
All right, but these things, the MacGuffin and Tron, will change the world. They'll change religion, science, everything about the world as you know it will just flip.
Yep.
Because it's just changed it.
Yes.
And it's represented in the character of Cora. And thing is to get her in the outside world, she'll change the world.
Yeah.
I have no idea what these isotopes, we'll just call them isotopes for lack of a better word. I have no idea what they do. I have no idea how they do this.
No.
They're supposed to change the world. I have no idea how.
Right.
I have no idea what. None of it.
Yeah.
It's important. They say it is, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's no visual evidence of it. This is what I'm going to say. Well, there's a scene where she gets her arm chopped off and she regenerates it. No, she doesn't regenerate it. He goes into her programming and basically fixes her programming to add the arm back. That is not her herself changing things. It's just he manipulated her program. Yeah. So you cannot come back, use that argument to say that's her gift. That was showing her gift. That was not.
Yeah, that you couldn't use that as an example of what
they're supposed to do. I have no idea what they do. I have no idea how they do it. And when they get in the last scene of the movie, she's in the real world, and they go, let's go change the universe, and they ride off in the sunset. And I'm like, how? What are you going to do? What? How? What? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Just like with the villain, I have no idea what he's going to do.
Right.
With her, I have no idea.
Right.
No clue what they're going to do.
Yeah. And as a viewer, I'm filling in blanks by supposing that they mean like blood, using her blood like in a transfusion or something
Stem
like
cells?
that.
I don't know.
Stem cells or something like that.
How's that would change religion, though? I mean, he said it would change everything. It wouldn't it wasn't just medicine. It was like religion and.
Right.
He lists off. He basically names every element of life as we know it will be changed.
Well, you almost get the sense too that they wanted to leave some things open for yet another sequel. I was like, well, yeah, good luck with that, because everybody. I just saw the movie today, and when the movie went to credits, people couldn't get out of there fast enough, And it was and everybody was just kind of like you could tell the murmuring. It wasn't. It wasn't a good. It was not a good time for all. No.
No, it's.
What's a shame we haven't said.
What's that?
Is that the first Tron? I love the first Tron.
Oh yeah.
The original from '82. I think that was a great film.
It's a cool movie.
It's just a shame that at 28 years later, this was the best they could think of.
Well, that's
so
the thing
disappointing.
Is, I mean,
it's just right up there with disappointing sequels like the Matrix sequels.
Yeah.
Pirates 3 was terrible. Spider-Man 3 was horrible. And all of them had that kind of downer, depressing. The tone started off slow and ultra serious, and they never regained any fun for the viewer.
Well, I think that's a thing we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like and I kind of don't. Which is
a
whole
done
other.
Right.
Okay, it started with the Lord of the Rings movies. All right. And we've talked about Lord of the Rings on here. I like them, but I'm not the big, huge fan of them like you are and a bunch of them. I know I'm in the minority, but I just don't think they're all that great. But what Lord of the Rings did very well, I'm a fan of what I'm about to talk about. I like that they did this. They took the subject matter seriously, and they put all of the effort and sincerity into it, as Coppola did with Godfather movies.
Well, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was handled with the same care and dignity. And that's why they're so beloved by people.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time that somebody's taken a fantasy movie and put that much care into it. And it shows that everyone was not. It's the first trilogy where every picture was nominated for an Oscar. The last one, the third movie won Best Picture. That's unheard of.
Yeah, it really is.
For a fantasy movie?
Yeah.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
And the Batman movies followed suit with Batman Begins and Dark Knight. Took it extremely seriously. And it pays off wonderfully, at least with the first two.
Yes.
Iron Man, I would dare say the first Iron Man falls in this category.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We could go on.
There are. You're making the point. There are examples.
The Harry Potter movies have been doing that. Even though I don't care for them, the Harry Potter movies have been attempting to do that. The first, especially Spider-Man 2, did that.
Yeah.
Here's the flip side. You get a Superman Returns, where they try and do it, and oh God, is it a depressing, somber piece of crap.
Yeah, and they miscast Lois Lane for starters. That was
terrible. And then also that goes over to a Spider-Man 3 where the same thing happens. And then Pirates of the Caribbean. The first one was just a lighthearted, fun movie. The second one, they gave it that seriousness to it. And the third one, it just fell apart miserably. So my point is this.
Mm-hmm.
Having that tone, it's not a blanket for every movie. You can't apply, even though it worked for the Rings and it's worked for others, it can't happen on every fantasy type movie.
Right.
All right. It's just not built. It's not a one size fits all method of taking on a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at your subject matter and look at what audience you're trying to take it to, and decide.
Right.
And they obviously try to take that approach with Tron Legacy, and it fails miserably.
It fails. And what's weird is the first one is nowhere near this dark.
Oh God, no!
Nowhere near.
It's a very.
Well, it's very upbeat. I mean,
it's a positive movie.
It's very 80s. Has that kind of that optimism. That the 80s were so noted for. It has that.
Well, Flynn, even though everything's happening, way over Flynn's head. He's in over his head.
Yeah.
He stays positive.
Right.
He has this cool vibe about him about the whole movie.
Yeah, and he knows he's in danger.
The first one.
Yeah, the original. He knows he's in danger, but they don't ever go to the point where everything's just so depressing.
Yeah.
Because this movie, you want to cut your wrist after 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
And then leaps in logic. I mean, in the beginning, the kid owns the company, but he has to, in the beginning, breaks into his own company. They set up a whole possible conflict with Cillian Murphy playing Dillinger from the first movie's son.
Yeah.
No payoff to it.
Yeah.
There's all these weird little. It's not just the things. There's more beyond what we've talked about. We could do a whole other show.
Right.
On what they did wrong with this movie. It's a complete and utter failure. Complete and utter failure.
Well, if folks should by now get the understanding that it is not a good movie, and if you go, you proceed with caution.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even say go for just the effects.
Yeah, I saw it in 3D, and I wasn't impressed by the 3D either. I really wasn't.
Avatar, as much as I am on record as hating Avatar, visually it was impressive.
Yes.
Other than the motorcycle sequence, I'm really not. I can't say go for the visuals.
Yeah.
It's not. I think you're better off saving.
I can't even recommend it on that. Yeah.
I'd say save my money and go check The Social Network, which has proved to be the best movie of the year so far.
Absolutely.
If you haven't caught it, or just wait if you want to see Jeff Bridges and wait till True Grit. I haven't seen True Grit, but I would rather.
I would rather send you to the video store or tell you to go on your Netflix queue and rent the original Tron if you have it.
Yeah.
You will have way more fun.
Yeah.
Have plenty of popcorn on hand because you will feel like eating popcorn for this movie.
Yeah.
This one I wanted to eat a brick and just choke myself to death. It was terrible.
Not a good movie. All right, let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Let's see. We're going to do a movie rental real quick. My movie rental suggestion for this week, I would like to say Thunderheart. Thunderheart. It's a 1992 film directed by Michael Apted. Michael Apted recently directed the Narnia third film, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. So in honor of that, I'd like to recommend a great movie he did in the 90s called Thunderheart with Val Kilmer. It's a drama with a little bit of mystery, some action, but it is worth your time. It's about a mystery of a death on a Indian reservation in the Dakotas.
Yeah.
It is worth checking out, and it's one of Val Kilmer's best performances. Check it out.
So my video pick would be, we'll stay with Jeff Bridges, and I'll say Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
it. All right, if you like Clint Eastwood, and you haven't seen Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, go get it like yesterday.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges and Clint Eastwood, bank robbery. It's made in the 70s. It's Michael Cimino who made the Deer Hunter. This is before he lost his mind.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, before he lost his mind.
But very introspective. I mean, it's got all the action. It's got all the cool Clint Eastwood stuff you want. Mm-hmm. But it's also at the same time very introspective, a character study, and it really goes. I mean, Clint Eastwood. I mean, Jeff Bridges, he was nominated for supporting actor role from this movie because he's just brilliant in it.
If he wasn't, he should have been.
And he's just really brilliant in it. And he forms this father-son or big brother relationship with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And Clint Eastwood, this was in the 70s when Clint Eastwood was at his one of his acting peaks. And it's one of his best performances, if not the best. That might be my favorite performance of his until Unforgiven. Maybe that movie and Unforgiven. Probably my favorite performance was his because he takes on that. He's man a few words as Clint always is, but just that vibe he gives off mentoring this kid. And there's these believe it or not, Clint Eastwood movie. There's these undertones of Jeff Bridges' character confused about his sexuality, really complex, heavy stuff going on against the backdrop of a heist movie. Mm-hmm. So. Totally go and rent that movie like yesterday.
Yeah.
Great movie.
And fans will, folks that rent the movie will enjoy the black humor too that's in it. The dark.
The rabbit scene. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
The rabbit scene.
Well,
you know what I'm talking about?
There's dark humor in it. And it's funny.
It's totally random. So the humor.
Yeah. Some of the humor is very random.
Yeah, just remember the rabbit scene. You'll know it when you see it.
Well, that's two good picks. If y'all rent those, Thunderheart and then Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, that's a good two for.
And they got a big huge cannon in Thunderbolt Lightfoot. They shoot stuff with. It's awesome.
Quote of the week. Last week's was, "And when everyone's super, no one will be." So that's The Incredibles, of course. So everyone should have got that. That's a pretty easy one.
Yeah.
All right, this one I'm doing this one to basically annoy him. Here we go. You're all acting like there's only two options: dying here or dying there. One more time. You're all acting like there's only two options: dying here or dying there. And so to make your guesses, next week you'll know why I'm doing this to annoy him.
Yeah.
Anyway, to make your guesses, you'll need to go to.
You should tell them.
After all this,
you'll be a smart ass about it. You tell them. Go explain it. They go to Facebook.
I'm doing a Peter Griffin. No.
All right, go to Facebook, the Incredible Hulk's Facebook page, on our wall. Tell us who or what movie it's from, or you can email us at hoke@redseatelevision.com. That's hoke@redseatelevision.com. And that's our Tron episode, Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I bid you adieu.
Now we'll get some popcorn and watch the first Tron. Yeah, see everybody.